Legend, Mr. Artie Lange on the show today.
Guys? Very exciting. Listen, well, just a quick correction. I was never on O and A. I was on O and I was on A.
Got it. Yeah.
But I've never been on O and A together.
That's true. That's true.
I was on Opie's show, and I have no problem with Opie. I love Opie. Anthony, I love as a friend. And Jimmy Norton show. So I was on J, too. I was on O, A, and J.
Oh, wow.
So, and O and J for a while.
Yes, I remember that.
And on OJ once, he was cutting a woman's head off, and I got on top of him. But I love all those guys.
Well, Artie, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Congratulations. Welcome back.
Yeah.
We're so excited to fucking have you, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, for you younger guys to welcome me like that, it means a lot to me because, like I said, being above stand-up New York, with the history I have here, I was just talking to the owner and telling him, he's had this place 11 years. The last sort of big thing I did here was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. A Stern fan who lives right next door in his high-rise hired me to do stand-up at a surprise party for his father's 60th birthday. They paid me $55,000.
Holy shit!
Yeah, $55,000, and I had to do 40 minutes of stand-up and just, when you do these private shows or like a corporate gig, like they'll tell you, you got to make fun of the board of directors. He can't golf. He's bald. So you're bombing and you just go, at least I suck, but I don't suck as bad as Ed's golf game. And I get to make... So that's what I did here. The last sort of big sort of night I had here money-wise. I made 55 G's here in one night doing stand-up for a Stern fan, a private party. But I started here. I became the first club I was ever a regular at was the Comic Strip in 1992. And then in 93, like about a month later, I became a regular here in 1993.
How did that transition happen? Because you were Jersey based first.
Well, I'm Jersey, but I'm North Jersey. I grew up I live in Hoboken now, which is basically a part of New York City.
Sure. All the yuppies are over there.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Oh yeah.
All my fucking jerk off. The people who live in my building, they're all just yuppies from Indiana on Wall Street. It used to be mafia guys.
Yeah.
Jimmy No Neck. And now it's Biff and Chad.
Did you get started in stand-up in North Jersey, or did you immediately come to New York?
The first time I ever did stand-up was July the 12th, 1987. I was 19 years old at the Improv, the first club ever in Hell's Kitchen, 9th and 44th, which has now become a gay kitchen. Hell's Kitchen. All kitchens eventually become gay, and Hell's Kitchen is no exception. So I did stand-up on 9th and 44th at the Improv for the first time there. I bombed. And then I did stand-up in Garwood, New Jersey at a club. In the 80s, the comedy boom was so crazy that they had sports bars that had comedy nights. So it wasn't even like not only was I bombing at this gig, I was just annoying people. I was doing the direct opposite of entertaining them.
Sure.
They were trying to watch a Met-Philly game, and I couldn't get their attention away. And then I didn't do it for like 3 years because I was scared. I went to some acting school in the Village at HB Studio in Greenwich Village. Got a little more comfortable on stage. And at 22, I went to the Bitter End on Bleecker Street.
Yeah.
And I did stand-up there. They had a radio contest. 10 people entered. And this was probably, by now it's 1990. And I was 22. And I got 6 out of 10. So I remember driving home that night going, 4 people suck worse at this thing. So that was a little encouraging. And then I came into the scene in the early 90s.
So how's that fold over there? I mean, like, you're getting past. I mean, are you, because like when we're passing comics here, we're looking at credits. You know what I mean? Do you have your Fallon credit? Do you got your Colbert credit? What's it back then? I mean,
well, it's if you're funny on stage.
Sure.
I mean that's important now, obviously, because it's all about social media, who follows you. Back in my day, I'm a criminal, so it was bad to have people following you. You don't want follow. My father was a criminal and died in 1990. If I told my father 400,000 people are following me, he would go, "My God, you got to get the fuck out of the country." Would you piss off the cops and the crooks?
Yeah.
How are 400,000 people following?
Because I hear these stories about like Lucius over at the comic strip.
Lucian. Yeah.
And he would sit there and he'd be like, "Well, that wasn't that good." And
no,
then,
he would say stuff like this. The first time I tried to pass at the comic strip, Lucian pulls me in the back in this little he would watch he was like the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
He would look in this little booth and he would watch you on stage in this little old 80s television set, and he would go, "Well, listen, I have I have an Italian guy who's with a weight problem from Jersey. What do I need you for? And I'm like, I don't know. What does he do? Does he build your decks for you? What do you want me to vulcanize the fucking living room? What do you want? Or sheetrock the bathroom? I'm here to do stand up. And he goes, no, I have a guy. He was big on types. He goes, I have a blue collar Italian guy.
Sure.
What's special about you? And he was tough, but I respect him because you had to be good to work that club. It's like the way Esty runs the cellar.
Sure.
It's of course everybody likes someone with credits and who has a name, but the integrity of like, look, are you funny on stage? A lot of these kids, again, my finger has never been on the pulse of what America's going to like. I remember the first time I saw Survivor, I said, this is the shittiest show of all time. It's going to last for 2 seconds. And I was in Columbus, Ohio at the Funny Bone in the mid-'90s at some point. So I see Larry the Cable Guy used to be named Daniel Whitney.
Yeah, I remember this.
Okay,
yeah.
so I knew him as Daniel Whitney. I never met him, but I knew of him as a comic. And I thought the first picture I saw at the Columbus, Ohio Funny Bone, I was about to go on stage, I have pictures of the comics. I saw Whitney in the Larry the Cable Guy. I thought he was at a Halloween party. I'm like, why is he dressed up like a cable guy?
Right.
And they go, that's his new character, Larry the Cable Guy. I said, oh my God, I almost wanted to call him and go, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
Sure.
He's going to fucking die broke. He currently has a gym, a basketball court in his house.
Yeah.
From Get Her Done.
I mean, infamously, DePaulo at the roast was like being like, "How the fuck are you so famous?"
My favorite thing ever was my favorite joke about that roast was Jeff Ross said Larry the Cable Guy was a character that worked. You know what character that didn't work? Dan the Comedian. But listen, and again, I'm not here. Do I respect his comedy? No. But do I respect him? Do I respect him as a businessman? Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of cocaine and heroin and hookers and gambling.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of gambler who bets on the Jets. That's why,
Hey,
there you go.
Come on.
Right. Well,
you won this week.
This week. I used to do an old joke where I said my uncle was a degenerate gambler, and he pulled me aside once. He said, Artie, when I was a kid, I was into the Jets. And then I got older and I got into girls. And then I got back into the Jets because I realized there's times when a girl won't fuck you, but the Jets will always fuck you.
I actually have put that, and I've quoted you in my Facebook after every playoff game.
There you go, yeah.
And it's just
Are you a Jet fan?
I'm not. I'm not even a football fan. I just like busting balls.
No one really is.
I'm just busting.
Busting balls is a better fan of it. I'm saying, so there's two different types of comedians. There's two different types of everybody. There's ones, you want to call them an artist. You want to call them someone. Like in the old days, to answer your original question is, I think people like Lucian and Esty, and they just were, are you good on stage? I don't care if no one knows who you are. Can you be funny in a unique, original way, a smart way, a different way on stage, and we'll go from there.
Well, how often did Lucian say no to you before you finally got past to the strip?
It took me 2 years.
2 years.
Wow. It took me 5 years to pass to the cellar.
How many no's did you get from him? Like auditions in front of him that he sat you down and was like, not yet.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have no no's now. So I probably about 11 times he said no. 11 times, yeah.
Wow.
And what made you feel like, you know what, I could keep doing this. I'm really good. He's going to pass me eventually. How do I?
Well,
what goes through your head?
In my heart of hearts, I knew he was right. I wasn't ready.
Right.
But in that 11 no's, 2 years had passed, and I had gotten a lot better. My advice to young comics is just the only way to get better at stand-up, the only way is to keep getting on stage.
Yeah. Right.
It's one of those art forms, if you want to call it that, or skills, if you want to call it that. Abilities where the only way to get better is to keep doing it in front of an audience. There's no way you can't, like, a lot of these kids get famous because they light themselves on fire and they run with their nutsack out on YouTube and they get 1 million followers, and some asshole in the Midwest books them because they got all these followers. They sell out, then they get on stage and they're like, what am I going to do, light myself on fire?
Yeah.
It's like Daffy Duck. I can only do it once.
Right. Are you back to that though? I mean, like, listen, you're talking about this comeback, and listen, I've seen your Twitter and you're taking local bookings. I mean, you're hitting Cellar up, you hit the stand up, you hit our club tonight, you're hitting up have you hit the strip yet? I mean, you're doing Jersey and Atlantic City. Are you back in it?
I plan on doing the strip because I love Richie and I love this club, so that's why I'm here. The great thing about stand-up comedy is I don't care how big you get, you got to respect it. You got to respect it. You know, and obviously it's all about the Comedy Cellar. So we'll, you know, we all go back there because that's our holy grail.
Sure.
But in a lot of ways, this club is for me too, and I'm loyal to places like this.
How many times did Stand Up New York say no to you before they said yes?
Only about 5 or 6.
Oh, good,
Comparatively. Yeah, but I was more ready. I came in. I was with I was trying every type of comedy, improv, sketches. I was with a comedy group called Midnight Madness that did sketches. And the way I got around it was we passed as an improv group before I got to pass as a stand-up. So I would just open for the group and do 5 minutes in front of a big crowd. You got to hustle.
Right.
You gotta hustle.
The hustle it's definitely out there. And we talk a little bit about these young and up-and-coming comics. We have a favorite here on our show. His name is Jay Jordan. And Jay actually is a brand new comic. 2 years, 3 years in, pretty much.
That's an infant, whether you know it or not.
But,
it's an infant,
and then yesterday, he just announced he's got Fallon next Tuesday.
That's great.
Next week.
You know what I mean? And
I love hearing stuff like that.
It
could happen quick, too.
Sure, sure.
It could happen quick,
So
too.
let's kind of go to something that you worked with, which was Crashing.
Yeah.
Which was a great show, an amazing show.
Yeah.
But the question is, and the backlash always in our community was, it's not accurate.
Right.
Was there any accuracies that you felt on Pete Holmes' character? Did you have a Pete Holmes that you kind of took underneath your wing and said, fuck it, sleep on my couch?
I know a lot of guys slept on my couch. I slept on a lot of other guys' couches. Absolutely. A lot of guys, even after we were established.
I'm really excited about to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, go right ahead. I'll do it too. Every cigarette you smoke.
I don't want to be left out. Come on.
Every cigarette you smoke takes 7 minutes off your life. And before the show tonight, I did some math, and I'll be dead at 11:38. So I smoke a lot, but no.
And you can smoke on stage.
This is like Johnny Carson in the '70s. I feel like Dean fucking Martin. Yeah, take that. Okay, great question. Yes, the show was realistic because Judd came from the stand-up world, and so did Pete, and. The biggest accuracy is the barking thing about being out there on this corner. You know, I didn't do that.
Which is impossible here,
especially that exact corner. By the way,
yeah, that exact corner on McDougal. I see fucking
right.
Every
There's 50 guys.
Yeah. Here
because,
you can't do it.
Right, the neighborhood's different. You know, you get yuppies walking their $11,000 dog.
Right.
You know, Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones in an argument, or the great Howard Stern, or Rosie O'Donnell, or Regis Philbin.
Or Opie. Opie lives in there, too.
Opie, Anthony, Ron, Fez, Bob, Tom, fuckhead and asswipe. But yeah, it's very, very territorial. It's a neighborhood thing. So, but that aspect of Pete out there, it was cool that he kind of showed that aspect of trying to make it. That was very realistic about how you got to bark. And if you bring enough people, then you get stage time.
Sure.
You know, and then the people show up and you're very nice on the corner, and then they realize they're paying $18 for a Coors Light, and they got to get 2 of them a piece.
10. 10 here, guys.
Sorry. That's very cheap.
I mean, we always saw those parallels, and we saw a little bit of it, but
the comedy business has changed so much since I started.
Did you work for the Boston?
I worked at the Boston, sure. You know, absolutely, we all did. But because of social media, because of everything else, it's insane how Louis C.K. probably a filthy rapist, but I don't know for sure, but the evidence is there. But a lot of the good-looking comedians said that good-looking female comedians that were victims of Louis claim that Louis did not rape them because in the hotel room he got hard and came in like 2 seconds. They were hot, you know.
Yeah,
but Whoopi Goldberg was missing for 2 weeks. So no, I'm kidding. But I know. So, but Louis, again, for all his flaws, a smart, talented motherfucker, original. And he said something that was great, like about I feel bad for you younger guys with social media because you get 7 minutes that's good shit. And Louis was a big proponent, like a lot of us are. The only way to get better is to fail. You got to try new shit, and you got to fail. You don't know if it's good or not. So if you get 7 minutes, that's killing on social media. You're so afraid someone's going to text, "Oh, this joke sucked," and then instead of the 200 people in the room seeing it suck, then all these people see it suck, and you're afraid to try something new. So you guys got to be more brave than we were in the old days. And I give you credit.
So let's talk a little bit. I mean, because like one of my favorite bits that you have is about gambling.
Right.
how did that how do you story tell that in your head? And if listen, how much money do you have in your bank account?
Right.
Bet $4,000. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's addiction. It's instant excitement. So, it's funny. The Howard would complain at the end of my tenure at the Stern Show. He was like, Monday morning after the weekend, no one's asking about mine and Robin's weekend. They're asking about Artie's weekend. And the show gets taken over by my situation. And the reason for that is not that I'm more talented, of course, or smarter. The reason is I'm a huge fuck up, and that's interesting to people. So, just like Ray Romano mined the material from having kids, I mine it from my life, which is the life of a junkie. I mean, Howard is a millionaire married to a model. A billionaire married to a model who has a cashew and some boiling water before he goes to bed at 8 o'clock. Jesus. Okay, he does some yoga, goes to sleep. I'm an active junkie on the road in Cleveland trying to find heroin, and I'm fucking hookers. Who are you going to ask about? So when I gamble,
hey, Howard, how's that cashew? How was it?
Exactly. What do you go to? You go to bed. In other words, part of the reason Howard and I worked was we were the odd couple. He's the most disciplined, responsible guy, 2 feet from the most undisciplined guy.
Sure.
But those stories are how I mine material. A good comic will live life. It's almost a business model. That's how I write my books. Live a crazy life, tell a story about it. So the gambling, like your question, you can't help but remember when you lose double your net worth on a Virginia Tech game. You're going to remember that shit. And if you remember it in detail, people are going to be fascinated by it because they don't live that crazy, stupid life.
Right.
Yeah. So I mine that for material.
I mean, right now I'm hearing a lot of one of my favorite episodes was the first episode of the last season where Esty kind of says, "Who are you?
Right.
Why are you here?" I see a lot of comics now. I saw a set the other day, and it was all observational.
Yeah.
Is observational that doesn't really stand. Everything sounded like a monologue joke.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. It's got to be, stand-up should be dangerous. There's very few. I mean, listen, Jerry Seinfeld, brilliant guy, but he didn't make me belly laugh the way Kinnison or Richard Pryor did. But all that's like he's talking. He never curses. Whatever floats your boat. But you're exactly right. Sometimes stand-up nowadays sounds like a lecture.
A TED Talk. Yeah,
right. And something else Lucian told me at the comic strip. He told everybody this. Chris Rock has a story about this. He goes, I need a laugh from you every 11 seconds. So in the back of my head, that's all I'm thinking. So when I tell a story, or you're talking about the fact that the line was too long at LaGuardia, or whatever the fuck you're talking about, your cat, shit in the bed or something. You got that. I'm glad he said that because it puts pressure on you. I keep thinking I need a laugh every 11 seconds. So you punch up a story with jokes, and if something's just observational, it just sounds like a nice talk. I mean, listen, guys are overpaying for beers. You gotta make them laugh.
Sure, absolutely.
So I agree with you, absolutely.
I mean, we get into this debate obviously because what is comedy? Artie, you're coming back into this industry now, and I'm sure you've heard that there's this civil war almost between comedians, and what is declared as able to be funny and what's not funny. Yeah. You had the pleasure of being on one of on a show that I listened to, Legion of Skanks with Louis J. Gomez.
Right.
Obviously, they've been a big polarizing figure with Skankfest and their own podcast in the last.
In the Me Too movement, just to have something called Skank.
I mean, what do you? We had somebody that interviewed us a couple months ago, and they said, is there a line to be funny? And I always say that there's always been this kind of schism in our industry. That there's always been some times that people are going to find something funny that you're not going to find funny as well.
Right. It's very
But were you able to take more chances back in the '90s than you are now?
1,000% yes. That's another reason I feel bad for younger guys. Without question, the shit we did on the Howard Stern Show, man. There's thousands of hours, and I was on towards the second half of his legendary status.
Right.
Forget it. You couldn't even pitch it. You couldn't pitch it in the room. Not even if something is racial or just like insulting to somebody. I remember I was on Mad TV for 2 years, and we did a lot of parodies of movies because that's what Mad Magazine was. So every week we'd have a meeting. What do you want to pitch? And Tori Spelling had agreed to do the show. So I pitched a thing called the Tori Spelling Bee, where she'd have to spell the word nepotism. And and then use it in a sentence. Just look, and she looks at the camera and just goes, "I like nepotism," and that's all she says. And she looks like a retard.
Yeah.
And her manager got so upset, like, that's offensive, blah blah blah. And you know what? We were gonna do it anyway until I got arrested. We couldn't do it. But I with someone on the show playing her, and that was balls because she had a lot. She was on 90210 at the time. We were on Fox. Now they just go, ooh, that might insult her, and she might, I don't know, call a lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's slander,
Yeah. Look, I've caught shit on Twitter for the most retarded shit that, again, I have a cushion because I have a built-in audience through Stern. I just play Governors in Long Island, 2 sold-out shows.
Beautiful.
There's nothing I can't say. They can't get offended.
Sure.
They can't get offended. And I will keep making money. Younger guys got to walk that line. Eddie Murphy said it best. I'm sure it's on YouTube because every fucking else thing is. But Eddie Murphy, Barbara Walters said to Eddie Murphy in 1986 on national TV, she said, "Is anything offensive?" And he goes, "If it's funny, it's not. If something makes you laugh, there's no way it's offensive because you're laughing, even if it's about whatever group you're a part of or cause you have. If you're laughing, nothing's offensive." And that, to me, Eddie Murphy said it. That's the holy grail.
So when you go to places like Governors and you're traveling and stuff, do you bring your own openers? Do you bring? Is it more important for you to bring up younger guys? Or?
Well, now with the probation I'm on a thing called drug court. I can't have a glass of wine is within 100 feet of me. I get to 2 years in jail now. So I have guys in recovery and AA. There's a lot of comics. Thank God, there's no stigma attached to that. I like to. I'll take anybody. Who's funny and he'll respect the rules that I have in my life right now. And look, when you're on the road, you like to have friends with you. You like the bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, Adam Sandler, perfected that whole thing of kids he went to high school. I remember Norm Macdonald was wondering why he didn't get in a Sandler movie. And I said, well, you know what the new triple threat is in comedy? If you went to junior high, high school, and college with Sandler, that's a triple threat.
I mean, let's be honest. Pete's doing the same thing right now. Pete Davidson. I mean, it's all his boys that are along
Well,
for the
listen,
ride.
as long as Pete gets on stage and does an hour on the road and is funny, and I'm confident he is, and you don't disrespect the audience, then whatever happens before is the party.
Sure.
And if it keeps the headliner happy, you got to keep your eye on the money.
I mean, what are you looking for? I mean, obviously you're a storyteller. I mean, listen, you are one of the greatest storytellers in our industry right now. What, are you looking for a storyteller? Are you looking for set punch? Are you looking for a feminist?
Or are you just looking for funny?
I want
anybody.
I want anybody who's got an original point of view and. If you could do some good in the world at the same time, sure. I'm someone who I root for everybody. I like underdogs. I'll make a joke about anything, but in my real life, I try to treat everyone with respect. I've never. Also, a lot of headliners will say, "Don't do this, don't curse too much." I've never told my openers anything. I'm like, just be funny. I like taking comics, and I have in the past. Dave Attell has gone on before me. DePaulo. People like Greer Barnes. The only way you can follow people that are that talented or Sarah, is because of that Stern crowd. I like people who are funnier than me going on first or better than me, in my opinion, because it's a better show in case I'm high and can't get on stage. and it makes me better, The better you are, you're better at tennis if you play with a better tennis player.
You sound like a fucking unicorn in this industry right now because I hear the horror stories. I'll be like, hey, don't fucking be too funny out there. Save the room
be
for
funny.
me.
Be funny. I want you to be funny. We're doing a comedy show. And
So-
if you're better than me, then it's like when Skinner opened up for Peter Frampton. In the 70s. They're like, how you follow Freebird?
So
I want to try to follow Freebird.
Throw your cards. Who do you like out there? Is there anybody in particular? That
Younger guys, I'm sad to say I've been in jail for so long. I don't know a lot of the younger guys. Comedy changes so quickly. You mentioned Pete. I love Pete. I love.
It's also
I love
funny.
Michael Che.
Yeah.
Is unbelievable.
I love how you're saying these guys, these younger guys, and like Che is like the lead writer.
Now,
on
I'm
SNL.
52. I'm 52. Che's a kid to me. When I say, but I understand what you're saying. I'm sad to say I don't know a lot of the younger guys.
Do you watch sets? I mean, are you? I mean,
I
listen.
try to, because I would always. I'll never forget. I was at this club and I got bumped for Drew Carey, and I sat in the back and I watched. And no. I mean, listen, he killed and everything. But my favorite thing that happened with that was you want to know someone with some juice in the business is watching you, because I like to break people through. I like to help guys out.
Sure. Yeah. So you're giving tags in the bar area and being like,
I try to, you know. But
my wife's sister just got out of rehab, and she's been texting me and calling me about like guys that were super funny in rehab.
Yeah.
Because they did like stand-up comedy nights.
Right.
And stuff like
I
that.
did a couple of that.
They said they were the funniest people. Yeah.
Oh my God. Because of the stories.
Life
Again,
stories.
the story. There's no one has stories like I'll tell a couple tonight on stage that like we have. And if you add to the fact that I was a well-known comedian, like again, heroin changed the game for me. Heroin, I did time in L.A. County Jail. I've been in jail in Paris, France. You know, I've been in jail in Miami.
How beautiful is that jail?
It's actually a shithole. It's like the porta-john at a Dolphins game. but Paris, France, I was in a 4,000-year-old jail with a French guy. He goes, Le plume, le mage. I'm like, get the fuck away from me. You know, so I've been in jail all over the place. And the stories you get are insane. When I became a full-blown junkie on heroin, and I was a well-known comedian, getting paid I was getting $100,000 a night, and I would land in Cleveland, and now I'm dope sick. I'm in withdrawal, so I got to land in Cleveland. If I'm not with a guy, I would take openers who I knew were junkies and would go get me drugs. That was a credit. I don't care if you're funny. Can you get me dope? And, you know, then I got to get in a cab and say to a cab driver in Pittsburgh who may recognize me, listen, I got an hour before I'm into withdrawals. Right. I got to be on stage at the theater. Yeah. Take me to the worst part of Pittsburgh and let's cop dope. And sometimes they'll bring me coke instead of heroin. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Wipe my ass? I need heroin. And the chaos just ensued. So in rehab, you know, you get that.
So you're writing in rehab. I mean, everything that you're going to be tonight you're giving us an hour. You've been doing hours in Governors. You've been doing 20s, 15s over down at the Cellar.
Yeah.
Where did you find this? I mean, when you were there in jail or you were there in that halfway, were you writing?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And the way I introduce new material is you get some old stuff that I know people love intertwined with the new shit, new stories.
That sandwich that everyone talks about.
Because you got to keep them laughing, you know.
How much of this this stuff is in your new hours
tonight? Probably at least 70% of what you'll see is what I call new. Yeah.
I mean, that's unbelievable. It's so incredible. Artie, I have to ask a question. We talk about the last great moment that you had here. I want to talk to you a little bit about crashing.
Right.
Okay. The episode that we filmed here at the club,
right.
You had come on set.
That was my last day ever on set.
Yeah, and you came on set, and then you got wrapped on.
Yeah, I went to the makeup chair. The hair and makeup people, I can't tell you how wonderful those hair and makeup people were on Crashing. I did basically 3 years, and I was on a lot. Pete and Judd were so nice to me. The writers, the two writers were Mike Lawrence and my good friend Greg Fitzsimmons at the time. Mm-hmm. So I go to the makeup chair and my nose is bleeding. I was so unaware of how I looked even because you're high all the time, and I've been snorting drugs and my nose was bleeding and I had a divot in my nose and it wouldn't stop bleeding. So the hair and makeup people couldn't touch it up. And my appearance had drastically changed in the last 2 weeks. And there's continuity,
Sure. Yeah.
I had to talk to Pete at the bar, and we improv'd a lot of the show. And so, of course, the texting goes, and they were so sweet. They were probably, look, we're scared for Artie. He needs help. He may die. That's how messed up I was. So Judd found out, and slowly but surely you could tell. This has happened to me before, in every job I've had from Mad TV to Stern, the day I leave. The day the plane hits the fucking mountain. Everybody was like, delays happened. And they said, we're not going to do the show. We got to rewrite it. They made up an excuse. And I was like, okay, I get to go home and do drugs. It's great. But I walked into the club here, and I'm looking around. I'm talking to everybody. I talked to the director. And they all, in hindsight now, thinking back, they were horrified because I looked like I just walked out from living under a bridge for a year, and I'm about to shoot an HBO show. So that happened here. My last day on the set ever of Crashing was stand-up New York. Yeah.
And what was the in general though? I mean, you're feeling good. and which is dude,
8.5 months clean.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. That's a miracle.
I mean, listen, Artie, you're doing awesome stuff. The movie quotes that you're doing, the elf thing.
I try to fuck around.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Thank you.
I mean, what's different from this time than it was from the last time?
Well, the thing I'd say normally now is consequences. I'm looking at prison time. I've been going to jail since the 80s. First time I went to county jail was 1987. I went to juvenile. I got arrested for attempted bank robbery when I was 17. I grew up crazy, and now I'm 52 years old. I'm looking at prison time if I fuck up. So I'd like to say there's some sort of real magnanimous reason why, but one day at a time. I have a great sponsor, which never happened. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor, so there's a whole support network. I'm surrounding myself with just people in recovery. That's a big deal. What's different is I don't want to go to prison.
Yeah.
You know, that's, I mean,
Does your
I've
sponsor
done
do
enough
comedy?
jail time. At times, my sponsor will come out. Yeah, he's got 6 years clean.
I mean, addiction is something that has been plaguing our community and in the arts in general. What do you?
Dope, fentanyl is taking people out.
What's? I mean, speaking, there's a lot of open micers out there that I will go to some other clubs and they'll be strung out. You know what I mean? And they're still going up there. Yeah. What's your advice to those guys? What can they do?
My advice is somehow you got to figure out a way to stop the heroin merry-go-round. You got to get off that merry-go-round because it's not going to end good. You're going to end up in jail. You're going to be dead in an institution or homeless, and you're not going to be working as a comic. That's for sure. Not nowadays. There's too much trouble with just financial reasons, insurance. I'm one of those people when I see guys, especially younger guys, going through that because I went through it. I want to save everybody. I'd love to help them all, but you have to eventually take responsibility for yourself. I have kind of a controversial outlook on, everybody suing companies that make painkillers. Look, there's a lot of scumbags in those situations, and they market stuff in bad ways. But they also don't, those drugs are around for a reason. They let elderly people in a lot of pain, or if you have cancer at any age, they let people die with dignity. You're not in pain. You're not screaming. There's a reason we have these drugs. They don't tell you to take 100 Percocet a day.
Sure.
Yeah.
If I buy a bat from Louisville Slugger and I hit myself in the head with the bat, can I sue them because they didn't tell me not to hit myself in the head with the bat? Yeah. When you buy oxys or perks or something like that, you have to take it as prescribed. If you don't, at some point you have to take some responsibility for yourself. So these kids just got to get strong. To me, you got to be uniquely tough and let the world know you were here, man, and say, look, I beat this. You can beat it. You can get off the canvas and do it. You got to try as hard to overcome that because especially nowadays, nothing will go forward in your life unless you get rid of it. There's rehab, there's abstinence, there's AA, there's NA, there's getting arrested, there's consequences, there's money, consequences. The first time you're faced with maybe having to blow a guy to get heroin, that's problems. I'm sure that would change me. I always had money when I had heroin. And no one ever asked me to blow them for heroin, but I don't know. Heroin's strong. I'm just saying. You have to figure out what is your bottom. Your bottom might be death. Try to stop, guys, as hard as you can before that bottom comes.
What's the difference?
Just know I'm rooting for you. A guy like me is rooting for you, man.
What's the difference between Artie on drugs on stage and clean Artie doing stand-up?
About 2.5 hours. I can do my act on cocaine in 2 minutes. Hi, it's good to be here. Good night. Coherence.
Sure, sure. Yeah. I will say this on a personal note. I had a car accident a couple weeks ago, and I've been clean for 15 days now.
Wow.
Yeah. So haven't been drinking.
Okay.
I laid off the blow. I mean, in our business, it's apparent. You know what I mean? I mean. Thankfully, when I was in the car accident, it didn't happen. But a lot of things came with perspective. And Kevin and I talked a little bit of this, in beginning of the episode. But there's definitely a clarity that I have now.
Oh, yeah. Believe me, I don't care what you think. There's old thing, Keith Richards, Hendrix, they always say, I'm better, fucked up, I'm more creative on her. George Carlin used to think that. I guarantee you, from Miles Davis to Charlie Parker to Carlin to us sitting at this table, no one is better on all those drugs. Sure. No one. You're better when you're straight. Absolutely.
So you fall down 9, get up 10.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
What's next for Artie Lange?
Happiness, I hope, because even when I, that's my only goal right now. The other stuff will come. There's ways to make money. I have a lot of support, great friends. The work will come. Whatever happiness is, that's what I'm trying to get to. Because why else are you on Earth?
Yeah.
It should be about the quality of life at this point. At 52, I am so, God spared me, man. I should be dead a million times over. So I just want to try to get that moment of contentment before I take my last breath, whatever that is,
Sure. Kev, we always kind of close with a question on this episode, because we're really just talking to like up and coming comics, people that just got hit milestones. Obviously, you hit a great milestone. You're hitting milestones every single day. But we always ask, what's the future hold? Like, what is your next goal?
What is success for you?
Yeah, what is success?
Success for me, again, some sort of happiness. To somehow get an of-age girlfriend. That's hard. No.
You have no idea. For years I've been listening to you, and to have you right in front of me, my friend, is so fucking cool.
No, you know what I want to do? I want to somehow continue through my work somehow, if I can. And look, I can't guarantee you I'm going to be clean the rest of my life. Just a one day at a time thing. If I could somehow through my work leave a legacy of also I help some people out from keep getting up off the canvas, that would be success to me. Have success in my work, and through that work, maybe help a few people.
Unbelievable.
That would be great.
Artie Lange on the fucking podcast today.
Great stories.
Artie, where can everybody find you on social media? If you're not fucking following already,
my Twitter and all that stuff is Artie Quitter, one word, artiequitter.com. If you Google Artie Lange, you see all the shit.
Yeah.
And
where we got some dates coming up here?
I got a lot of dates coming up. I'll be at the Stress Factory in Bridgeport, Connecticut this weekend. I'll be in Providence, Rhode Island in a couple of weeks. Count Basie Theater in January. New Year's Eve I'm working. I'll be all over. And my own podcast starts in 2 weeks. It's called Artie Lange's Halfway House.
That's great. And who's on the podcast? Mike is on.
Mike Boschetti.
Yeah, Mike's gonna be downstairs tonight.
The great Mike Boschetti.
The great Mike Boschetti. I mean, I remember the DirecTV fucking show. You was the fucking
There is
balls.
no one funnier. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Artie Lange. Artie, so good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Good luck with everything, guys.
Thank you so much, guys. Guys, we'll catch you next time on Past.